All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. As you've all been notified, this meeting is being recorded and is made available on YouTube. Keep that in mind with your comments, please. Roll call. Looks like we're just missing Amy for now. Any additional changes to the agenda, Liana?
No.
Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a first and second. Any discussion? All right, roll call for the vote. Hi, Amy. We're just getting ready to vote on the consent agenda. Okay, roll call for the vote. Robert?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Matthew?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we have reached the public comment portion of the meeting. There are quite a few emails in your packet to be included in public comment this evening.
I also have a, I'm sorry, go ahead, Scott.
And then I was going to open it up to the public to chime in. What do you have there for me, Annie?
So I wanted to make a statement in regards to last month's meeting since I wasn't present. And so I've just written a couple of paragraphs just to keep me on track and to make certain that I don't take a lot of time. So I'll just read verbatim. Since I was absent for October's discussion concerning council conduct, I'd like to add my comment to the record tonight. This has been a banner year for stress and emotional fatigue, and I echo Amy's words that our nervous systems are compromised because of this. Lashing out at others has become a normal response, and I have engaged in my fair share of finger wagging and self-righteousness this year especially. We all know that this doesn't truly serve anyone, and we're all aware that its impact can be quite damaging. It breaks down trust, it eliminates the possibility of reparation, it stalls advancement, and it ultimately dishonors the positions of council member and mayor. These positions carry a great deal of responsibility, and the persons occupying them are held to high and moral standards, and rightly so. There aren't many willing to fill these seats. Many members of this council ran unopposed. So I asked myself recently, and now you, if I don't do this work, who will? If I can't put aside differences respectfully and ensure that this governing body remains focused on the important tasks at hand, who will? If I become intent on proving another wrong, what is the point of my service? What is my aim? And who am I serving? As mentioned by others last month, this council has a history of working well together. It was noted that communication has greatly improved and that those expressing differing views have done so respectfully. I admire this, and I aim to conduct myself similarly. I think it equally important to note that this year has been like no other in this particular council's history. We are facing racial inequity, a deadly pandemic, dire economic hardship, and a complete rewrite of our school system and spiritual, physical, and social health protocols. Discord amongst us is inevitable, and I ask that those who have a historical perspective of this council consider that these are new times requiring new conversations and new ways of thinking. We will muddle through this like the rest of the world is, but what I am certain of for this council particularly is that each of us will make our best effort. And I know this because every person here has chosen their seat because they value this community. Thank you.
And thank you. Okay, so I'm looking at the participants. I don't see any other public besides council and staff. Were we thinking that we were going to get some public in the Zoom?
There's 4 people that are also in the
attendees. I got that as another tab over there.
But there were 2 comments that were submitted after the council packet was published last, and so I'll be reading those. They were also sent to your, one of them was also sent to your email. So this is from James Landers, and he says, "Dear esteemed members of Stevenson City Council, I am writing to voice my concerns and disapproval at Sheriff Brown's statement that the Skamania Sheriff's Department will not be enforcing the COVID-19 mandate recently put into place. This pick and choose practice of what laws and which orders to follow based on his own personal political beliefs is frustrating me as a resident and a taxpayer. This selfish behavior is not only an act in insubordination, but is endangering our population. This mandate was put into action to help curtail this recent spike in COVID infections in an effort to save the lives and health of our family, friends, and neighbors. Flagrantly disregarding it and advertising that Skamania County is a non-compliance puts more lives at risk here than before, as it makes Skamania County seem like a haven for people who are looking to skirt the rules and regulations put in place to keep us safe. People like that are generally the ones who have been taking risks, not following guidelines, and are the most likely to spread this virus around. I have too many people near and dear to me that are at-risk people due to their age and or underlying health conditions to just sit idly by while the sheriff's office not only does nothing about it, but advertises this decision on the official sheriff's Facebook page as well. This is dangerous behavior that endangers the public from the people that are hired to, sworn to, and trusted to protect us. I hope that something is done to reverse this policy. Thank you for your time. And then another comment was by Monica Masco. She's not able to make it tonight, but she just wanted to state that she appreciates that the Manor Apartments constructed a fence for their large garbage dumpster. And so that was requested by the city. It was a nuisance complaint that we followed up on. And she just stated that it's much nicer walking by and not seeing their garbage. She'll leave out the details. So those are the two public comments that were received after the noon deadline. And if anyone else would like to make a comment, they can raise their hand to request to be unmuted. And if you wanted to raise your hand on the phone, it's *9, and then to mute or unmute, it's *6.
Can you unmute Mary Jane? Or can I do that?
I did that. So Mary Jane, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. I, as a representative of the Stevenson Pool Association, want to thank you very much for all of your hard work and consideration in continuing to hold the pool until we can open it when it's safe and when we have the funds for it. So thank you very much. And it certainly is a asset to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Can you unmute Julie?
Julie, you should be able to talk now.
Hello, just wanted to make sure that my email was submitted as a comment.
It was not. So typically if people send emails in, especially if they've sent it to all of council, I don't include it in the council packet unless it's specifically requested to be included in the council packet. And if it doesn't make it in time, then I'll read it into the minutes.
Okay, so would you like me to read it, or you will be reading it?
If it's your comments and you would like it read into the minutes, you can go ahead and read it.
Can the record reflect more than just Julie? What's Julie's last name?
Fitzpatrick May.
Thank you.
So the email that I sent, it's timestamped 4/14 today. Hello, dear City Council members and City Mayor. I have been concerned about how much our budget seems to not include specific community building and mental health support. I would like to see the budget line items for the Skamania County Sheriff's Office to be more inclusive for our community needs, especially in support of mental health resources and education. We are very challenged right now in areas that don't seem to have adequate funding or attention for inclusion. Do you have a plan to address these issues? Will you consider more community input on these issues? I'm sorry, on these items? Will you consider the option of allocation in different areas instead of passing this budget exactly as stands? I also have listened in past discussions by City Council about supporting / adding further education for bias we all tend to have in regards to race issues. I was perplexed by a few comments by council and wish especially Council Member Mr. Muth to explain further what he meant. It seemed like maybe Mr. Muth was suggesting competency and could lead some classes that were both addressing his concern for understanding the importance of all the members' time, yet also expand beyond his past education. It seems that these times press us to include recent events or new data on how to be more aware of our innate biases that can sometimes be difficult to step out of while we're in the moment / under pressure / or just going about our normal MO, not realizing we sometimes have our blinders on. I do feel like this is a sensitive area to have lots of patience and a humble attitude of that we may not actually know, really know, as much as we assume at first glance. I think education in these areas could be more creative and effective while not wasting the time of those involved. Thank you for considering these comments, and I hope there can be more discussion and community input. Respectfully submitted, Julie Fitzpatrick May, Stevenson, Washington. Thank you, that was my comments.
Thank you. Anybody else in our room here? Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to public hearing. First up is the 2021 sewer rates. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:12. Liana?
So as stated in the council packet, the original, I guess the original revised series of steps to do for budget, or sorry, for rate increases for the sewer department indicated a $20 per month increase, or sorry, $20 per month increase year over year. And we have been able, through the achievement of obtaining some very substantial grants, we've been able to slow that curve. And so the current proposal is only a $10, so we've been able to have it. We're still in the middle of doing the rate study to kind of fine tune what our operations are. This is the first year that we've operated the plant by ourselves and not under a contract operator. And so we're still fine tuning some of those costs. And then we'll also firm up what the final rates are going to, or what the final financial funding package is going to be for the construction. And so once those are solidified over the next year, I'll be able to work out a budget that goes longer than just 1 year. But right now, I only want to kind of stick with just 1 year at a time. And so that's where the $10 increase will get us to being able to be solvent next year, and still kind of keeps us on track for making sure that when we do increases in the future, it's not as drastic as it has been in the past. And the other thing I want to point out is this increase is only on the base fees. This is not on any of the usage fees. So while it does impact the customers, it does not impact the commercial customers as much as it has in the past, because in the past it has typically been, so that represents a 12.5%. So that 12.5% would then also be impacted, reflected on the usage rates for both flow as well as the BOD surcharges. That was not passed through for this increase. So again, it's also taking into consideration the impact of COVID on these businesses and residents. And so trying to do a conservative increase that gets us what we need and where we need to go.
Okay, so would anybody that's in session here would like to make a comment that's in the public? If you could raise your hand, or what was it, *9?
*9 is raise hand, yes.
Okay, last chance for public comment on the sewer rate for 2021. All right, I'd like to close the public hearing portion at 6:16. This is the part where we discuss amongst ourselves. Go for it, Amy.
I'd like to thank Liana and all city staff who had any hand in this reduction, which is pretty significant, I think, to our citizens always and especially now. And even though we're talking about an increase, it's definitely not as there as we had thought. I think your memo said something about $45 less monthly than was originally projected. Yeah.
In the end,
So-
yeah, over the 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, so that's significant. That's significant to people living month to month. And so I want to recognize you for that and say thank you very much. I think that is a job very well done, and we are often being beat up and told that we don't do very well. So I wanted to take the time to do that. The second thing that I'll say very quickly is my preference would be to let this roll to a second reading, because I don't see any reason to rush it through, and I prefer to, that's the whole reason why we put these second readings in place, so that somebody else does want to comment. If some member of the public does want to comment, they have that opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
I'd chime in with definitely, as Amy was saying, the level of increase is definitely better than we were anticipating. So that is awesome. But given how little as it is, I would love to see us maybe slow some of our growth projects and put maybe some other funds towards that to reduce it further. Just given it keeps increasing. I know you went conservative with it in light of COVID, but there's still a strain on everyone. And so if we could get that a little lower, that'd be great.
So for sewer, I guess all the projects are related to our administrative order and capacity issues that we have.
Sorry, I don't follow.
So as far as growth projects that are in the budget, there's no growth projects for the sewer department, and that's
I'm not talking the sewer. I'm talking, so just as an example, how unfortunately the Russell Avenue project ballooned much higher than it should have initially. Cutting back on maybe some of our other just city as a whole projects and redirecting some funds towards that would be more ideal.
So the street project that's allocated to streets only, as far as the revenues that go to streets, the general fund, we have a couple of projects that are outstanding, and those are the only funds that could be used to go to sewer to draw down that balance. Are there other projects that are in the budget that would help draw down the sewer department budget that you have in mind?
Nothing specifically. I mean, you know the numbers better than I could as far as how those are being divvied up. I'm just simply saying I would like to see, whether it's general fund or whatever, however it would need to take place. I would just rather see more city money going towards the sewer rather than just, typically we'd want to keep water and sewer as self-sufficient, right? It pays for itself. But again, trying to keep those increases down even more, just because it's getting excessive in general, just in general.
Okay, and my response to that is we have put, the other cost that we can put towards it is the revenues that or the reserves that we have set aside in the general fund. But outside of that, everything is reduced, and the projects that we have in place are restricted revenues, like I said, for the street fund or for the sewer fund. So there's nothing more sewer specific that I'm aware of that we can do to address the reduced cost to then reduce the rates again.
I mean, if we are able to go to a second reading, then I'd love to touch base with you after the meeting, rather than eating up a bunch of time here. I'd love to pick your brain on that.
Okay.
Can I
Go
address?
for it, Annie. Go for it.
So Matthew, I appreciate the consideration for people who are likely struggling and that this would have an impact on. I'm wondering though, because we also need to provide a service and we can't renegotiate the cost to us. And so I'm not sure that we can pass anything along to the majority, to a wide pass of reduced rates to everybody. Is it possible, and maybe we already have this, if people are struggling to pay their bill, is there something that we can do for those people specifically and still keep this rate as it is?
So we've been referring them to Washington Gorge Action Programs, they've been given additional funds to help people through that have been challenged by COVID. And then they also have additional other resources as well. So we also have a reduced rate program for seniors and low income. And again, we refer them to the senior center to apply for that, because not only would they get reduced rates to the city, but they also have additional benefits. So that's what we try to do for anyone that comes to us and lets us know that they're having troubles with our utility bills.
Okay. Is that something that we can advertise on our Facebook page? That those services are available? I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds right now as we are discussing the hike in rates.
Mm-hmm. And I can check with Mary, but I believe we were talking about also including something on the utility bills. We have very few characters allowed on the postcards, but we do try to communicate what we can on those.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm good with it as it's written, as it's presented. If people would prefer to go to a second reading, that's fine as well.
I prefer a second reading too, just for the record.
All right. Well, that sounds like 3 out of the 5 of you. So very good. Thank you guys very much. We will be revisiting this. We'll be tabling this for now. Is this timely, Liana?
It just needs to be passed in the December meeting because it is set to be implemented at the beginning of the year.
Well, now
All
that's
right.
assuming that there is a December meeting though, correct?
That's why I have everything on here mostly for approval and ready to go, so that if we don't have a December meeting, everything's taken care of. But that's also on the agenda further down to discuss.
Well, perhaps we should reconsider the second reading.
Who plans on attending the December meeting? So we've got,
Maybe.
And I'm completely open for all of December, so whenever it works for everyone else.
okay, so right now we don't have a quorum for December, for the regularly scheduled December meeting.
We had 3,
There's
didn't we?
3, yeah.
Okay, I guess I missed one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed Robertson. Okay.
Roberts was in the trees.
Oh, gotcha.
Kara's working
Gotcha.
out. I can't be on mute.
Okay, well, at this point, it looks like we can carry this forward. And Ken, can you remind us what has to be a majority of the committee as opposed to a majority of those present? Why we would need that? It was strictly with budget, money is concerned, correct?
Yeah, well, this in fact, this is an ordinance. So an ordinance always requires a majority of the whole body. So that'd be 3 of you.
Okay. So we're good. As long as the 3 of you that raise your hands can be here.
I was gonna say, no, if you get a 2-1 vote, it doesn't pass and you can't put it into January. So
That's
Oh, there you go.
correct.
You better have 4.
Be better to have 4.
Are we looking at potentially changing the date from the 17th to the 10th?
We can talk about that now. Yeah, it was on the agenda to change the date if needed. So the 10th is another date that was that's available for Amy. I don't know if anyone else is also available on the 10th.
I'm available on the 10th.
Annie's available on the 10th.
I can do it.
If it's via Zoom,
Yep.
which it will be,
Yeah.
I most likely would be, but no guarantees.
Okay.
So we're up to 4 now.
4, maybe 5.
4, maybe 5.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, if you guys are amenable to that change, we will move our meeting to the 10th next month so that we can get some of these on the books before the end of the year. Okay, moving right along, public hearing number 2. This is regarding the proposed property tax levy. I'd like to open up the public comment period at 6:26. Liana?
So this property tax increase is the maximum amount that we're able to take, which is 1%. In many years past, the cost of living increase and the CPI index has been higher than 1%. So this allows us somewhat to catch up to the costs that the city incurs. So I recommend increasing the 1%. And it's not 1% on the levy rate, it's 1% on the amount we collect. So as you see, it's an increase of $4,000 that we collect that's spread out over the residents.
Thank you. Anybody in the public like to comment? All right, one final chance for anyone in the public to comment. I don't see any hands going up. We'll close the public comment period at 6:27. All right, comments from council, please. Or I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, just by way of clarification, you're closing public hearing more than just a public comment.
Public comment. Very well.
All right, well, I will make a motion to approve resolution 2020-369, authorizing an increase in property tax for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
All right, this is passed. Thank you very much. All right, final hearing.
We have one more motion on that one, Scott, don't we?
Oh, I guess yes, we do. All right, go for it.
Okay. So motion to approve ordinance 2020-1167, fixing the amount to be raised by ad valorem taxes and levied for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All right, roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now, public hearing. Third, this is the final hearing on the 2021 proposed budget. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:30. And Liana, take it away.
So at the last council meeting that took place last week, there was requested $6,000 be added to the general fund for painting the wall on, I guess, Trail to the Gods, the trail as you're coming in to City of Stevenson on Rock Creek Drive, the west end of Rock Creek Drive. And that's the only change from the last meeting. In the document, I did include additional graphs based on some questions that were had about the overall revenues and expenses and how everything is trending and balancing. And so that's where I've added it in some specific funds as well as in the overall citywide revenues and expenses.
Okay. Would anyone in the public like to comment? All right, one last chance, last call for comment from the public. All right, I'd like to close the public hearing at 6:31. Thoughts? This would be the third time we've looked at this. We did have a special workshop, so feel like we've done our diligence on this.
Motion to approve the ordinance 2020-1169, adopting the 2021 budget as presented with the changes as discussed.
I'd actually like to discuss the sheriff's budget.
That's not, Amy, that's not a budget, that's a contract amount. That just gets changed after the budget is approved. So you got the budget, and then we've got a contract over here that can get changed or adjusted, but we need the big umbrella first.
And that is on the agenda.
Are we not approved? Okay, thank you.
So yeah, the budget isn't adopted as a,
on the agenda.
yeah, the budget isn't adopted as a line item budget. It's adopted based on that total dollar amount for the general fund. Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we do have a first.
I'll second.
All right, first and a second. Any other discussion? All right, roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Well done. Okay, building permit fees. This will be public hearing number 4. I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:33. Liana?
So the fees that are proposed to be increased are just to keep our fees in line with the county because they've taken over managing our building inspections. And these are for other fees that typically aren't incurred in a normal building process. So these are fees for additional inspections for those people who have started work without the benefit of a permit. Again, it's just so that their costs are recouped because, again, they're the ones that are managing the inspections now.
Okay, anyone in the public like a chance to weigh in?
Could you have used smaller font for this resolution? Oh, geez.
Last chance for public comment. All right, I'd like to close the public hearing at 6:35. Discussion ensues.
Excuse me. Leon, could you, I feel like I missed something you said. So were you saying that the, is it ultimately the county feels that some of these costs should be, you said kind of recoup their costs. So they, is that what I heard, right? Sorry.
Yeah. So typically your building department, you try to operate it as an enterprise fund. So you try to operate it as recouping the costs for any expenses that you have. And so their costs are set at the $75 rate for the most part for other inspections and fees. That's their current resolution, and that's what they need to, again, recoup their expense on that. Our costs were related. I don't know where our costs came from, and they haven't been increased in quite some time. I think since 2009, maybe.
Sure.
So they needed to be done anyway, but we were holding off until we got the latest revision on the building codes to do a whole revamp. But it's causing some challenges when they're invoicing customers. And so the other types of fees that are also not in alignment are our mechanical and plumbing fees. But on that side of things, our fees are slightly higher. And so before lowering the fees, I want to get with Tim to see, because we are talking about trying to get in alignment with our entire fee structure. And so these were.
I mean, that makes sense, but at the same time, they agreed to take this on given what our fee structure was. So just because they feel it should be higher, to me that, it should be the other way around. So to me, it doesn't make sense to raise this if they already were, took the contract and felt okay with the current fees that it was.
Any other thoughts? All right, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 2020-0372, approving the schedule of fees for construction code permits, inspections, and reviews.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Nay.
Robert?
Yes.
Paul?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a guest today. And Angie is here to give a presentation on an update on recent events and activities.
And Angie, you've been unmuted.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me now? So it's been a long time since I've been at a meeting to give a report. So I have a lot to go over. I will try to keep it concise. The chamber for the past year, I'll give an update on that first, and then second on our marketing contract for the city of Stevenson. We started out the year in January doing a strategic plan. I have Liana to thank for that. That was her idea. The chamber didn't have a strategic plan, so we went through that process and created one. I love it. It was a great process. I'm a checklist kind of person, so it's been a great tool for myself and for us as an organization. We created a 2-year plan, and we're about 3/4 of the way through it already. So we'll be doing a revamp in this coming January to set some new tasks. But some of the main things that we identified and completed this year were updating our bylaws, our policy manual, and our employee handbook. We did a lot of professional development for staff, leveraging partnerships with local entities and organizations. We are expanding our services. We did a needs assessment recently in September, a survey of our members, and came up with a plan to implement new services in 2021 as well as 2022. And we also have a plan to grow our non-dues revenue, and that will be a working plan for 2021 and 2022 as well. So other than our strategic plan, we've worked on updating our website on a very consistent basis. We've added a lot of new pages, itineraries, photos, things like that. We updated our newsletter format this year. Also added a new newsletter out of necessity for COVID. So sending that out very frequently in the beginning, less frequently now, but we do send that out as needed, as well as we did create a new Facebook page that we manage for restaurants, announcing their takeout and curbside dining options to help them through COVID. We thank the city very much for partnering with us on the PPE distribution program. You guys have been a wonderful partner, helping us out with CARES funding, as well as the city of North Bonneville and the county, I'm sorry. So we've been ordering supplies and distributing those to the businesses since June, I think. We've been very involved with group meetings and webinars, things like this, on the county, gorge, and state levels for COVID. We've participated in several state promotions this year. Some of those were specific to COVID, like the Buy Now, Play Later program and the Explore Your Backyard program. But then we also participated in a Western States Travel Expo recently. And on Monday, I'll be meeting with somebody from the Washington State Tourism Alliance about a new program or a project that they're wanting to talk to us about, that they're gearing towards Microsoft employees on recreation and just different opportunities statewide. By region. So I'm excited about that. And then we're also going to be involved with participating in a new branding campaign for the state of Washington as well. So that's what we've been up to kind of chamber-wise. As far as marketing and promotion of the city, was a little difficult to market and promote this year, but we did do we actually switched our marketing campaign, our marketing contract from Sasquatch Advertising to a local company, NB Marketing. I'm very much enjoying that change. She has a good pulse on the gorge as a region and used to live here locally. So she's much more hands-on, and that's been a good change. Together, we've created some new ads and some new social media campaigns. Our current campaign that we're running on social media is Share Your Stevenson Adventure promotion, and we're giving away $50 gift cards every week with that campaign and trying to support our local businesses. We've focused more on shop local ads, especially this fall and this winter, since things have kind of opened back up. We've been doing a lot of website updates. You should see by the end of this month, maybe mid-December, a huge change if you check out the cityofstevenson.com website. We had 2 photo shoots, one in the winter and one this fall. So we have tons of new photographs to add, and just a whole new update, look, feel to that website that we're excited about. Unfortunately, we weren't able to host all of our events, of course, but we were able to put on the 4th of July fireworks show, and that was a success. People were very respectful of staying in their vehicles, and so that was a win. We also this year created a holiday lighting committee, and we met on several dates throughout the year to create a plan for this year and next to buy new holiday decorations for Christmas and for other holidays throughout the year. Not really decorations, but more lighting. So we will have a community lighting day this Saturday to put up those new decorations for the holidays. We feel it's a very safe event. We will have small groups of probably 2 people each group spread throughout the town putting up new Christmas decorations. And we are moving ahead with Christmas in the Gorge, although it's on a very limited basis. We are putting on the parade. We're calling it a parade. It's kind of a reverse parade. The entries will be stationary. They'll be parked at the fairgrounds and folks can drive through and see those. So we're still trying to bring some holiday cheer, but be safe. So, you'll be seeing lots of ads on Christmas promotions in the local papers, as well as our Shop Stevenson for the Holidays campaign. So I think that's about all I have. It's been a busy year.
Hi, Angie. Annie here. Thank you for the update. It does sound like you've been very busy and also very creative, and I really appreciate that and your team there that's really kind of had to redefine what the chamber does in this time of COVID. I'm wondering if there is going to be any focus given on holidays that are not associated with Christmas and Christian holidays. Is there any discussion about maybe including Hanukkah or any of the other holidays that are coming up to be more inclusive?
To be honest, there hasn't been, but that would be a conversation that we would welcome. So probably at this late date, I was scrambling today to get my ads placed for holidays. So as far as any kind of advertising goes and any kind of pulling things together for this year, I don't see that as a possibility, but would definitely welcome that conversation. Like the lighting committee, we met several times throughout the year to give ourselves lots of time to really think it through really well and plan thoughtfully.
Yeah.
So
yeah, good. Thank you. So I'm glad that you're open to that. So maybe I will reach out to you after these holidays and plan something for next year instead.
sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, Annie.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Scott. May I? Okay, thank you. Hi, Angie.
Hi.
First of all, again, I feel like I'm giving lots of props this meeting, but super awesome job with the COVID newsletter and the coordination between, I think of it as all the horses pulling in the same direction since that one webinar we had years ago, but with all of the agencies that you've needed to coordinate and the businesses. So awesome job to you and Angel down there. I have two questions and maybe three. One is, I happened to be on the chamber website yesterday or the day before, and I noticed that you had a little banner that says, COVID-19 update. However, there's no date, and there also isn't the new information regarding the governor's mandate. Furthermore, there seems to be no concentrated location to find out which hiking trails are open and which are closed. I spent like a half an hour looking at half a dozen different websites trying to figure out what was open and what was closed. So my question is it possible for you to update the banner so that it has a date and the latest information? And also, is it possible to update the site either there or under the hiking sections to show what's open and what's closed?
Sure. Yeah, I thank you for pointing that out. I can update the banner. And you're just wanting a date on it as to when we updated it? I'm confused about the date part.
Well, it looks like my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully you can hear me. So it's a COVID-19 update, and it says Skamania County is carefully reopening. And this is what was posted, I don't know, maybe back in June. Like, I know this isn't the most recent update. So when people come to this, they're not actually seeing the most recent information, but they might think they are. So guests who are coming to town from other states, for example, they may not know they're not going to be able to eat indoors at the Big River Grill, for example, for the next month.
So maybe just linking to the current
Totally.
guidelines.
Totally. And having a date on there, like COVID-19 up as of November 2020 or whatever, something like that would be helpful, I think, for visitors to know, like, how recent is this information?
Yeah. I can definitely add a link. That would be keeping up with the updates is why we did the newsletter, because they're very frequent. So
Yes, except that visitors aren't seeing, I know, and those are
Yeah.
awesome for locals and for
Yeah.
businesses, but those aren't super helpful for visitors coming from out of town. Right?
Sure, I'm just saying I'll just put a link to the governor's website so I
Perfect.
can
Yes.
make sure that it's always current instead
Yes,
of me
that's
trying
perfect.
to keep up with it. And your other question was about hiking trails. So I think
Yes.
on our hiking page, we have a link to Ready, Set, Gorge.
I didn't see it, but I believe you that it's there.
So that's kind of the most current for gorge-wide trails. And I think there's a link to the Forest Service website as well for their updates.
So, okay, so under Gorgeous Hikes, again, it says COVID-19 update, but there's no date. So I don't know I don't know when this is from. So you have a link to Washington State Parks, the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, and Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area, which is great information. And I don't know what, when this is from. So this is just a suggestion. If you choose not to do it, that's fine too.
Yeah, and we just chose to link to their websites so that it's always current, because they're updating their websites, and that way we're not promoting outdated information on our website.
Got it. And I think that's super smart. And then the last thing I'll say is underneath the City of Stevenson website, it's a little bit the same thing where I can't tell when the COVID update information is from. I can't tell what hiking trails are open. And there's a note like under Trails of the West for, it says like a new permit system for Dog Mountain will be launched in March of 2018. So that makes me feel like none of the content on this site is up to date.
I know, and it's currently going through a complete update. So all of those pages
Fair enough.
are being reworked as we speak.
Cool.
Everything on the website.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. When will that be live? Do you know?
We're hoping he's hoping by the end of this month, but said it may be more like mid-December.
Cool. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for the suggestions.
So I have a question based on Amy's content. The pages that you're linking to, so on the chamber page that has the links to these other pages, could there be just a one-line sentence that says, for most up-to-date information on trail closures and openings, whatever, please visit these links so people know to look further than that particular page?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annie.
Any other comments?
And I would like to point out that, I would like to point out that the Skamania County Chamber of Commerce is the only fully open chamber in the Gorge area that Angie and Angel versus the other places, Hood River and so forth, are mostly closed and have been for a while.
And the chamber totally stepped up when it came to helping provide PPE for the businesses and being a conduit for some of those services. So certainly something that wasn't anticipated in job description or description of services, but the crew definitely snapped to and performed over and above. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Angie? Angie, thanks for dropping in. We appreciate all your work and enjoy the rest of your evening.
You also. Thank you.
Okay, situation updates. Liana, can you update council on the changes that have been made to the office?
Yes, so there are plexiglass shields that cover the front counter. We're working on getting a door in or a gate in so that people can't go past that without permission. That's in the process of being installed. And then now the front door's locked. But it was open for a minute. And we had a spray bottle for people to use as the hand sanitizer, because the Skunk Brothers solution is best used in a spray bottle versus a pump type system. So that's what we have going on. We also have the 6-foot markers spaced around the counter, but I don't think we've had more than 2 people in the lobby area since we opened for a minute. So anyway, now we're back to being closed to the public by appointment only.
The SDA is, as I've been explaining or keeping you guys updated, is working on one of their programs, is the takeout program. That was due to kick off on Small Business Saturday, so a week from Saturday. This is a discount promotion that is underwritten by the SDA in light of the latest mandate from the governor. And then also providing free of charge bags and to-go boxes. So we're going to, or the SDA is moving up the distribution of those materials to right away, so that those can be handed out to the businesses immediately. But the discount program will still start on Small Business Saturday as planned. So just one more way trying to help out with COVID-related business shortcomings. Carl.
Wastewater treatment plant update.
Yeah.
Things are still going good, still chugging right along. We got our filamentous bacteria under control 2 months in a row, so that's good. It's helping out with biosolids hauling, reducing that even further than what we already have reduced. We spent about 3 weeks rotating staff into positions of running the plant, giving Ian a little time off. He took a week off. So education amongst ourselves, it's really hard to get continuing education credits right now. So we're doing the best we can down there at our own plant. Projects as far as the lift stations cannot come soon enough. We've been kind of working on some older pumps at a couple of the lift stations, maintenance on them. So other than that, business as usual for the wastewater treatment plant. And thanks for the comments of what the crew has done. And once again, it is the entire crew, not just public works, but office staff as well. It's quite the effort. So we are making it work on our own.
Again, Carl, how like October, November of last year, 810, 620, this year, 353. Fabulous job by you guys. I mean, across the board. We haven't done a single upgrade that we need to do, and you guys have tweaked it or kicked the right canister in the right spot. So fabulous job.
Yeah, and we are seeing, with the heavier rains. I think I mentioned it last meeting. I mentioned I&I inflow and infiltration of rainwater, and we're starting to see it. We're starting to see the higher flows down at the plant. We started our second clarifier, got that back online due to the higher flows. We were hoping to stay on one as long as we can, and I feel that we did. Running two does bump up the cost of electricity, bumps up the cost of running an extra pump, more equipment involved. But in the end, we're trying to do just that, clarify the water. So needed to kick it on, did that today. And
do you have that on an auto set? I thought we fixed something a few years ago where that'll kick in automatically when you get the additional I&I. Or is it you have to physically turn it on and it stays on?
No, what you're talking about are the RAS pumps, and that is automated now, and that was a huge help. So they recognize higher flows and adjust accordingly.
Okay.
Also, what came online was what we call the deragger. We were having constant problems with the impellers clogging up. Now they go in reverse at a set time to unclog that. That was what we call part of the immediate upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. So those upgrades helped tremendously.
Again, fabulous job.
Thank you. Hopefully with the higher flows, we'll see it again. With the higher flows, it ups our BOD.
Yeah.
It does run a chance. I just want to be prepared for that. So again, accolades. It's what we do, right? Big shout out to the high strength users. We've been doing testing at 3 of them, and I think I did mention one was high, but they're working on that. But the rest have been good. So. Without their efforts, this wouldn't be happening at all. So
a small, oh God, it's probably not even a technical question. I've seen a lot of construction that's going on around the city, and trucks are rolling off with a lot of mud that's obviously just getting kicked into the streets. When that gets rain washed into our stormwater pipes, does that create a bad I&I for you guys too? So
not at the way those are 2 different systems. Not at the wastewater treatment plant, we don't see that, but what it does hurt us with is our catch basins. They get clogged.
It just clogs up. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're on that subject, we are still working on the Rock Creek Lake that is formed when we get heavy rain events.
Yep.
We now have confirmed that it is a massive root ball. I'm sure it's caused by one of the oak trees that are right by the basically right by Rock Creek Bridge. I got a company to come in and try to cut it out, going through the pipe with a root cutter. We got the blade stuck. We kept bringing it back. We confirmed that it was shavings, and it actually broke the blade off on whatever's in there. So now city crew is going to dig it up and try to make the repair.
Are you going to dig it up at the Grange, or are you going to dig it up further up the road?
It's actually to the west, just before the bridge.
Oh,
A
okay.
little bit of a large project. Yeah, the storm line there is about 8 feet deep. So bringing in shoring, probably plating it, probably be a few days. So
just don't let anybody get in the hole. I don't want to collapse in there. Yeah.
Bit of a project.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Carl? Thanks, Carl. All right, we have already discussed the December regular meeting. Moving on to 8B, setting a date for a public hearing on a road vacation. Liana, can you go over the process first as to why we're seeing what it is that we're working on today and what it's leading up to?
Right. So the process by state statute for a road vacation is the property owners submit a petition. Once I receive a completed petition, I submit legislation to council, which is this resolution, to then set a public hearing date between 20 and 60 days out from when the resolution is adopted. And so so these can't wait until January. So thank you for changing the meeting date. I will change the date. So there's 2 resolutions in front of you for 2 different sections of road. And I'll change the date to both of them to be on the December 10th. But everything else, the rest of the information in both of them remains the same. Neither of these access bodies of water. And so the process is a lot easier. There is one that you will be receiving at the next council meeting if they get a signed petition in time that will access a body water, and that one has a little bit different restrictions regarding it, and I'll go over that at that time. So this is just the first step in the process, and then at the public hearing, we'll discuss all of the recommendations, pros and cons, and we'll hear from property owners and people that have access as well at that time. But at this time, there's no staff report ready for either of these.
Just FYI, No Name Road does access water. All the kids park there and you hike right down the cemetery to Rock
But
Creek.
that right of way does not end at water.
I agree, but that's where they park. That's why they want to vacate it.
Yes.
So are these strictly right of ways, or are they actual city road property?
So No Name is a developed road
Okay.
that is a street right now.
Mhm.
The second one is not developed. It's just a right of way, more or less on paper.
So the idea would be, in that case, it would be just kind of releasing that. But with the first one, since it is a developed road, just so I understand the process, is the idea that it would be sold if approved, it would then be sold, or how does that look?
Typically, the property just reverts to whatever ownership, whether it's 50-50, or however that's split. Again, I believe council can decide what that split looks like, but there is no requirement for any payment of that right of way in any scenario. The only requirement for payment is if it accesses a body of water.
Well, the actual rule is that if the city paid for it, the city can require repayment. And if the city acquired it, I'm trying to remember the rule, 25 years, more than 25 years ago, the city can require payment, or is it the other way around? At any rate, but Matthew's question is a good one, because there is a difference between property the city acquires via dedication, like a right of way, versus property that the city owns in fee simple. The nature of a city right of way is actually an easement, more or less an easement. So think in terms of a city right of way as being an easement on the adjoining properties. So when the city vacates that property, it simply removes its right of use from the property. And the default is that the property goes 50-50 to the adjacent property owners. Versus if the city owned that property outright in fee, meaning it acquired it as essentially a deed to the property, then there's a different rule altogether, and the city could not convey it back without getting money for it. Otherwise, it's a gift of public funds. So anyway, that's a little little explanation of city right of way, the nature of city right of way.
I definitely appreciate that, and I'm assuming that there's not going to be an issue with the first one of gifting with the public property, but it feels like that, and so that was why I was asking. So, but thank you for the explanation.
And again, I'm sure that we'll either go into more depth or we'll go over this again when the actual process, all the
Absolutely,
discussion goes
that was just to understand the process. So
totally get it, and that was why had Liana give us a brief description on what we were working on tonight. So appreciate the comments from everyone.
I've got a question, Scott, for Ken. As we approach this public hearing, is that a quasi-judicial decision for the council?
No, it's been held to be strictly a legislative decision, so you don't have to worry about it being held as a quasi-judicial hearing.
I had a question for Robert, if I may.
Yeah, what do you got?
Well, I'd like to hear more about how this property is currently being used by the public.
Oh,
how this road.
On No Name Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it's at the end of the Iman Cemetery down the street from the house up here. So you go by it, and the kids for a while there was just even, anybody who wants to try to access Rock Creek there behind the cemetery, they'll park along that area, which the Krogs have now built that nice big house right there. It didn't used to have that house on the east side of Iman Cemetery where it deads in. The Mobley house, their Dobley house has always been there. It's been there for years. And then, it's kind of funny because the kids or anybody, when we go down there, you walk through the cemetery and then you take that little trail down the hill and then you're into the creek right there at 40 foot, right? So I think what they want to do is just
Yeah,
make
so-
sure that people aren't parking at that area anymore. So if it's no
But-
longer a public road, people won't park on it legitimately.
But maybe it's important. I guess my question is it important for us to maintain access to that?
Well,
We don't have a lot. I mean,
here's the problem, and we can go with Ken on this one, but my understanding in Washington is that all of those homeowners, and even when I owned on Angel Heights, I owned to the middle of Rock Creek. That's my property. So when you go on there and use it for, playing in the water, you're technically trespassing. Dobley used to come out every now and then and say, hey guys, especially when the kids would be drinking, for quite a long time in that area. And he'd ask them to leave. Now he's usually only here a few times a year, but now that the Krugs are full-time living in that house, or the Krugs, yeah, they made.
yeah, but they knew that was there when they purchased the property, right? I mean,
Well, I understand, but when they bought the
I don't know.
property,
Ken,
and
can you-
again,
Okay,
Yeah.
focus, everyone. Focus. Focus.
So all you're doing tonight is you're
Setting a date.
establishing, you're setting a date. There will be a public hearing. Amy, hopefully you can learn everything you need to know about the use and so forth. And everybody who has an interest, well, I'm sure can attend and explain their situation. You're free to, because it's not quasi judicial, you're free to do any outside study on this that you would want to do to learn more about it, to feel like when you make that decision about whether or not the property should be vacated, the road should be vacated next month, you feel comfortable in your decision. And so by all means, you will know more when the time comes, but that's not what's happening tonight. So I just want to make sure we're clear, we're just setting a date tonight.
yeah, I just didn't want to derail it next time if I didn't have to. So,
And Amy, they still access it by parking in front of the cemetery, which is a, access road. And you just go through the front gate as opposed to going to the end and sneaking around the corner.
And the county has seen a pinch point and they are looking at anything to try to preserve access. So that's another thing that's going to be in the mix. Okay, I would I would entertain a motion for 8B.
And to
And let's-
confirm, we're
And
good
let's
with,
thank you. Yes.
yeah, and we're looking with just at the regular December 10th meeting. Is that what we're assuming? Yep.
That is correct.
Can I do them or do I need to do them separately?
They have separate.
Separately. All right.
yeah.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-368, fixing a public hearing date for the no-name road vacation on December 10th, 2020.
I second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Is there any other discussion on the date? All right, roll call for vote. Matthew.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Annie.
Aye.
And Matthew.
Didn't I already
Oh,
go?
sorry, Amy. Sorry. And Amy.
aye.
I need to stick to a standard roll call list.
Okay,
Ready for 8C?
let's do it.
All right. Motion to approve resolution 2020-371, fixing a public hearing date for the Zutler Powers road vacation set for December 10th, 2020.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any other discussion on the date? All right, roll call for the vote. Matthew.
Aye.
Annie.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
And Amy.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Where is that? I'm just trying, I can't read the map.
That is off of Impala.
What the heck is it? What is our, if I follow the vacation up, what's the northern or the top road there?
Hot Springs, Alameda.
That's Hot. Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Now I know where I am.
Okay, now on to 8D, the interlocal agreement for law enforcement. Leona?
So this contract is pretty much the exact same as the previous contract, with a change to the way that we calculate the CPI based on a change to, they removed the Portland CPI as far as the cost escalation, and this contract is for 2 years.
Right, can you also explain, like you did for me this afternoon, the contention, the fact that city residents pay twice the claim?
So, and I think this is also reiterated from Pat Rice's email. So city residents throughout the state of Washington pay county general tax, and those go to pay for sheriff services. And those sheriff services do cover the cities. However, for the most part, cities also have either an agreement with a law enforcement agency or their own police department to have an increased level of service. And so while it seems that you're paying twice, you're paying, when the city pays, it's to have an increased level of service for the residents within that district.
For the council, I would like to jump in and just kind of share with you guys some information. I am not advocating. I'm not taking a position. I just want to share some information because I went and pulled the 1990 Attorney General's report. And the question that was asked to the Attorney General there was, the county sheriff's duty to enforce state law applies equally in incorporated and in unincorporated areas of the county. And so I share this through Leona, but it goes through this whole analysis to get to where we are for this discussion. Legislature has set forth the general duties of the sheriff in RCW 36.28.010, and it's 6 relatively, vague vagaries on what his duties are. And it goes on, it says that we find, the Attorney General finds that when you have an unincorporated area as well as an incorporated area in the county, those sheriff's duties extend to both unincorporated and incorporated. However, if you have second cities like we are, or smaller cities where you are, you can, through the Interlocal Government Act, which is a separate act, you can contract with any other governmental agency to provide additional services. So the AG then went on to say, so what you can do, they say, thus we conclude the sheriff has a general duty to enforce state law in both unincorporated and incorporated areas of the county. We recognize, though, that in addition to those sheriff's powers and duties, that there may be an established city or town police department. So there may be overlap. And what they tried to say was, even if your city police department exists and is not enforcing a particular law, the sheriff in that county can enforce it, and vice versa when you have the overlap. And so then they go on to say, well, wait a minute. Well, why would you have this agreement? And it says that the reason that you would have that is because the statutes as written, they do not obligate the sheriff to provide cities with a specific number of police officers, nor do they obligate the sheriff to provide cities with a specific level of police services. So the legislature steps back and says, hey, we're not going to give you these specific jobs. If you want to do that, you do them through these interlocal agreements like we have, or we've had over the years, and it's before us tonight. So what they came out, they said, to the extent that a particular city's police department is unable to provide adequate police protection, the sheriff's office has a duty to allocate its resources accordingly. However, the sheriff is not obligated by statute to provide cities with a specific number of officers, specific level of services. Should a city wish to obtain such specific protection, it may do so by contract. So that's kind of the umbrella that we're looking at. Now you've got this agreement in front of us. I just wanted to bring that so that we are all working from the same page on the contract.
And appreciate it. Thanks.
That was great. Yeah. So looking at the letter that was sent, and I'm trying to understand So absent a contract, we'll only respond to 911 calls of emergent nature, et cetera. But looking through this list, I mean, these are basically things that they would be providing more or less, across the county. So I'm not really sure what the city is getting specifically that the county doesn't, other than, as Robert was saying, kind of maybe more presence. It looks like maybe some of the extras, we'll call them, are being, are interdispersed in there, but a lot of that's general county level as well, I would assume.
And Matthew, what I thought, if I look at the contract, I know you're looking at the letter and what the sheriff wrote back, but if I look at our contract, what I see as extras, I guess, is one is the animal control service, because that doesn't exist anywhere. We wouldn't have that. And then the other one was this, we put in there random patrols. We have regulation of traffic within city limits. And we have enforcement of violations of state statutes and certain city code violations, which I think we would not have a policing body to go to for our ordinances if we don't have this agreement.
And that makes sense.
And again, that's just the piece of paper. I'm not saying the dollars or whatever, but yeah. So
if it's those few things, which is kind of where I was assuming it was heading, then is it worth 178 or whatever it was?
All right, I did the next thing that you guys.
All right.
So I went through line item by line item in the county's budget. So the county has a $38 million, 39, I'm gonna round everything up, $39 million budget. Out of that budget, they have a sheriff's enforcement expense of $3 million. Now the sheriff, though, in order to cover that $3 million, has some revenue generation buckets, permits for guns and various things like that. But the amount of revenue that the sheriff's department creates is only $569,000. And that includes the 170 from the city.
Say that again.
Okay, so, and the sheriff's revenue line item in the budget, that is money that the sheriff's department can bring in to offset that $3 million cost, is only $569,000, of which 170 of that is city dollars. So if you look at it, our contribution to the expense for the sheriff is 0.0601%. It is literally a thimble into their pot of cash. And if you look at what comes out of our budget, so if we give them 176, because I'm going to the cash dollars, so you can decide, hey, is that the equal cash? Out of our budget, the city's budget, the 176 that we're paying is 0.0913% of our budget. So the way I see it, open discussion, is we're taking a thimble and pouring a thimble in theirs. It's a thimble of our money, and then we're adding a thimble of theirs. We're not adding big dollars to the budget. So if the discussion is it worth 176,000 for whatever these services are, I think that's what we need to decide on. And I understand there's other issues that people don't, have issues with the sheriff's office. And I'm not trying to advocate for the sheriff's office. I'm simply trying to point out what I was able to research.
I'm a data guy, so I appreciate the data you brought.
Yeah. That being said, then getting to the specific issue of concerns that the sheriff's department is advertising, displaying, pontificating that they're not going to do something. The question becomes, what is it they're saying they're not going to do? Remember months ago, we had the I-1631 initiative that came through. Same problem. Now that statute, everybody was all up in arms, you're not going to enforce it. Well, it's never been fully implemented. So there was nothing for the sheriff's office as today to even do. We had a lot of people who showed up very concerned that we were mad that the sheriff's office wasn't enforcing. So I went to the Washington Association of Counties, the WSOC. They had a Q&A, I think it was Tuesday, and it was about 30-minute Q&A. And one of the questions that the county commissioners that attend these calls was, once again, what is the enforcement mechanism for the proclamation? Okay, so everybody back and all right, wait a minute, what are we supposed to do here? So the governor actually issued guidelines. for enforcement. I sent it to Liana and she can share the screen with you or at least send it to you. It literally has no teeth for your sheriff's department to show up and do anything, not even write a citation. It says voluntary compliance is the absolute goal. And if you go all the way down and it's like the individual business continues to decline to follow the proclamation, even after being contacted, contact by the local law enforcement attorney general's office for enforcement action is a last resort when there is a continuing public health concern due to non-compliance with the proclamation. The goal of the contact is to encourage voluntary compliance. So the question that I think some of our citizens are concerned about is, wait a minute, Thanksgiving's going to happen. I'm going to be sitting in my house. I'm going to look across the street and there's 50 cars over there and there's a whole bunch of people in this house. And I'm upset that that person's violating the proclamation. So you call down to the sheriff's office and you report that. And the sheriff's office doesn't have a mandate to go to that house and say, don't do that. That's at least not what the governor is saying. And then when you talk to the executive director of their external affairs, he said, we're relying upon governmental agencies, Department of Health, Department of Labor, all those folks to issue the necessary fines that they're allowed to do. But they aren't looking to law enforcement to physically write citations or even arrest anybody. At least that's what I learned today and listening to the audio tape, reading the guidelines, and also the proclamation. So, a brief conversation with law enforcement is you're having that get together with excessive number of people, you call it in, the sheriff's department or any legal enforcement agency could not enter your home without a search warrant. So they would have to call and get a search warrant authority from a judge to actually enter your home to then ask people the question as, are you relatives, are you not relatives, and then remove you. Now, if a business owner calls and says somebody's in my business and not complying, that's a trespass. And so you don't need a search warrant. So again, the sheriff's department can show up, ask the person to leave. If they refuse to leave, then cite them for trespass. And include, I guess, in that citation, you also violated the proclamation, which then when you made your appearance in court, you'd have to defend both. Because the proclamation does say if you violate it, it is a gross misdemeanor, which is odd because that's up to a year. I'm surprised they didn't just say misdemeanor, but it's up to a year and $5,000. So, but again, that's the judicial side of things. So that's what I understand. So I think what's published on this, I'm not a Facebook guy, but what I understand is that basically Dave has said, or the department has said, we don't have enforcement power. I think there's a dispute over that. I think certain people disagree with that, and that's fine to have the disagreement. I think that's true, but that's my understanding of how this is supposed to be enforced.
It's a convoluted process the way you described it, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. It's easier not to do it, but not impossible.
I'm not disagreeing with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of correcting what was said there. But I mean, that wasn't what was conveyed. What a lot of residents.
I'm definitely not the PR department for the sheriffs.
Yeah. What a lot of the residents are seeing and saying, whether you're looking at 1639 or some of the proclamations is, until the courts overturn it, there are certain things that you're gonna have to go with, and he takes a very firm stance, speaking for the whole sheriff's office, right? I don't know what the individuals are, right? It's just him, but he takes those firm stances that and flaunts, defying the governor at every opportunity. I've heard him spouting some conspiracy theories. I still have concerns with how Granny Gadunk was handled. There was just information that wasn't very forthcoming around some of the investigation, and so it's concerning. And so with that kind of behavior, myself and plenty of residents that I'm seeing of, is it appropriate to continue to give that full amount of money when perhaps we can repurpose that? We approved the budget for the higher amount for the umbrella let's relegate a little bit of that towards, I believe, I don't know if it was Pat Rice or one of the people had mentioned referencing the sheriff's visit to council during August of, we only have, I think, 4 days covered by mental health. And so trying to utilize some of that funds to increase that. The city's only going to keep growing, and so will the various concerns. So let's get somebody who's more trained for this. So I'm not saying strip it all, but I think there's a portion that needs to go to better services.
Ken, you had a comment?
Oh, for me?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess this was a subject of some discussion on the Wasama listserv amongst city attorneys about enforcement of the mask mandate. Suffice to say, in general, the city law enforcement officers have been treating it more as a kind of a learning tool for their residents, rather than strictly enforcing the what's in the statute, which is 70.50. I think, yeah, 1 or 70.05.120 makes it a misdemeanor, as Robert points out.
It's a gross misdemeanor, Ken. They didn't even give it a misdemeanor. That'd be nice if it was just a misdemeanor.
I think the governor's mandate said a gross misdemeanor, but I think the statute says a misdemeanor. But at any rate, I guess I think that this turns into more of a political matter than a legal matter, because he does have law enforcement authority as far as discretion about when and how to enforce, especially these sort of minor violations, and how he goes about securing compliance with these laws. But that's not to say that the council still might have interest in what he's done publicly that might make some concern on the council's part, certainly valid. That again, it's not really a legal matter nearly so much as it's a policy matter.
And so to piggyback on that, I think that's a great thing to point out with Ken, where you're like, a lot of agencies are utilizing it as kind of that training, let's make sure you're aware and all that. But that's not the tone that's being conveyed. And then additionally, there was the individual in North Bonneville who was then ticketed for violating, the health code, around COVID. So it's picking and choosing, and that's concerning. So not only is it, being very political about it, but then not even consistent.
I would like to make a suggestion to us to discuss. There's a dollar amount that we've assigned to this for these specific police services. Again, if you guys as a group want to discuss altering that dollar amount, I mean, I'm all for that. But one thing I did look at in the county budget is, and this is probably true, their social services budget is $90,000. That's it. So out of their $39 million budget, they allocate $90,000 for social services.
Jesus.
So, I couldn't drill down far enough in their budget to find where those dollars actually go out. But why wouldn't we, as a city, hearing everybody's discussions about the mental health issues and things like that, look at a second agreement with the county who does provide those services, whatever, because we're not set up as a city. We just don't have a mental health bucket to go fund or work with, or even a association. But if we go back to the county who has these, and it's right there down at Hegewald, and say, look, we will partner with you, county. Let's increase that resource that you have. We find that person who's the liaison who says, all right, what would it take for city dollars to get a person part-time, a 0.5 FTE or whatever, who can then address these mental health issues, and whether that means they liaison back with the sheriff's department or whomever, but at least we've created a new link. We've reached out. That would be my thought.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. That's real close to my thought as well on that. I think that's a great idea. The question is where would the money come from? Would it come out of the pot for the sheriff, or would it? For me, the sheriff does tend. He has the right, and he should prioritize certain law enforcement activities over others. I would much rather he go after, prevent a murder or a bank robbery than to make sure that I'm wearing a mask when I go pick up my son at school. But I don't like that he publicly announces it. He's just, and this is the second time that he's done it. He's just basically said, yeah, we're not going to enforce these laws, so have that at it. And I think that's very foolish on his part. And if I'm going to do this part of my job, but not that part of my job, and he told everyone that he was going to do that, then I certainly wouldn't give him a pay raise. I'll tell you that for sure.
Well, he's up for election next year. So, I mean,
right.
He'll be on the ballot for county next year.
Right. Well, and that's the only way he's held accountable, as far as I can tell. There seems to me no check or balance on his power at all.
That's us. We have that power right now through the power of the purse.
Yes.
And I mean, I think whether I'm only gonna say at $179,000, is it really a power of the purse? Because it doesn't necessarily affect that budget for them, does it? I mean, I would agree with you if we were a significant contribution to that. I just feel like we're creating a discussion or maybe a problem for ourselves for a penny over $1. And I may be simplifying it.
Well, we don't have so think of it this way: is whether we want to say we're scolding and punishing for current behaviors, or we're looking at what is what's more, maybe not more important, but like you said, recognizing that only $90,000 is going to mental health, and when the sheriff then the sheriff's department then is the one that winds up having to answer those calls. They do what they can with what they have. But so again, whether you want to look at it as punishing or just prioritizing some additional services, we don't have any extra funds. I mean, we just raised the taxes as best we could, so it has to come from somewhere. So I mean, I will want to let some of the other ones talk a little more, but I feel like it's that that's what we're talking about, is where we're pulling from, which would be this.
Amy, do you want to go, or can I jump in?
You can go. I'll go after you.
Okay.
Thanks.
So my thoughts are that whether there's a mandate in place or not, the purpose of the sheriff from the city's contract is he is supposed to keep us safe and protect us. I don't think he's doing that. I don't think the entire department's doing that. And I don't think the county commission is doing that and not also upholding the mandate for the sheriff's department. I don't feel like giving more money to the county to create a partnership for mental health services when they should be providing it anyway. We're all paying taxes to the county. Why are only $90,000 of those taxes going to mental health services when it is an extreme and dire situation in this county? If I were to give you a wave of magic wand, what I would see is that we do divert some of the funds to the sheriff's department, because he's not providing the services as he should anyway, and create a bucket in the county for an additional mental health counselor to be available on the off days that the current mental health counselor is not available, so that we have 7/24, 365 coverage for mental health issues. I want to put this on the county's ownership. This isn't ours to discuss. It's not our problem to solve. The county commissioners have rank over the sheriff's department. These are conversations that should be happening at that level. And our citizens of the city of Stevenson are paying enough in taxes for these services. And I expect that they provide them without us having to give them another cent. And end of rant for now.
Wasn't even good. It was a good rant, though. I like it. And I want to be clear that when I'm digesting the 300 pages or 134 pages of their budget, the county's budget, the line item says social services. So I don't know what, again, I didn't drill down to find out if that includes what I think you're talking about is something different.
Right.
But that's the number I found on their budget.
Thanks for clarifying that.
So I mostly agree with everything that has been said in that I think this is like another blunder. I just think it's a straight up social media PR kind of blunder, actually. That's really what I think happened. Part of it may be that they don't have a competent person managing their social media profile. Part of it may be that they don't care, right? I don't know whether there's more training that's needed there. But I looked at the post that was forwarded to us by several citizens. And I then emailed Sheriff Brown. Liana was kind enough to let me know that he was out of town, and she forwarded it to Pat Bond. And we did get a response from the sheriff's office, which Robert basically summarized. So I won't go into that. I do agree that we need this. To me, I say another PR blunder because I'm talking about the Granny Gadunks issue, which I think was also a blunder. You could say the same thing, and I'm not saying that they're saying the right thing. They very well may not be saying the right thing, but whatever they're saying, they're not saying it well, because it is clearly, raising a lot of hackles about enforcement. And it does appear to be, whether it's true or not, it does appear to be that the sheriff's office is picking and choosing which laws they want to enforce. So I think that there are two pieces here. I think one is some training on social media. Another piece is some training on racial bias, which we've talked about before as a council. And the third piece is the mental health piece. My preference, which probably is not shared by anybody else, at least I haven't heard it so far, is that the money that we've got allocated in the sheriff's budget actually potentially stays with the sheriff, but that it is used specifically for mental health in some capacity, some portion of it. Because my concern with hiring somebody else is a lack of coordination. In the Granny Gadunks incident, I want those police officers who are responding, I want them to know the phone number and be patched immediately in to the mental health crisis person who can help them. And if that doesn't stay within Dave's budget and control, I worry that doesn't happen. So I would like to see some more seamless integration. And to me, what that means is additional conversation with him and whomever else in his department, maybe the commissioners, I don't know who else, but how to make sure that seamless integration happens.
But I think to your point, or yours and Annie's, because this is more of a county thing. So if there does become a lack of communication, it's because that's the culture that's being generated over there. And I don't know if trying to keep the money where it's basically the sheriff's office hires their own mental health person versus the county hiring one to coordinate. I think it's an interesting idea, but I think it is, you're touching on a wider issue, one that we are not able to solve in our small realm of things.
Yeah, I don't know that I would trust the current county commissioners and the current sheriff and department to appropriate any funds that we give them for mental health to be appropriated in a way that we are comfortable with. I don't trust that. I don't think that they see this as a real need, and I don't think that they're really very concerned about people with mental health issues that are brought into the criminal justice system. I just don't think they care about those individuals.
Okay, so keep in mind, this is an interlocal agreement with a contract associated with it. So trusting and understanding and hoping there's contracts with deliverables. So just keep that part in mind.
That's a fair point. Thank you, Scott. Annie, if you could clarify. So so you mentioned, you're concerned of putting more on the county's plate where there may be a lack of deliverables. So is your idea that we would essentially add staff to city, or or contract or otherwise, that it would be a city resource for this mental health, or what was your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And as we drill down on this, and the reality is that then how do we determine, so if it's left at the counties, on the county's plate to provide mental health services, whether it's in the form of training deputies or hiring another mental health expert, is that available to all the county or just the city? Because it's just the city that's providing this extra money. Or do we hire our own staff person, and how do we integrate that person then with the county's resources at the sheriff's level? I mean, it's not a quick and easy answer, I don't think, but I think that we still need to discuss this, and I'm not ready to vote for this contract one way or the other.
Perhaps we could form a working group with members of council who are interested, who could meet with
Yeah.
sheriff or Dave Brown or a representative and city staff. We can invite a commissioner if they want representation as well, if that makes sense. It does feel like it is a bigger conversation, and a working group is just one way to move forward on that. I don't know if people have other suggestions.
I would be for that, and I would make time for that.
At the end of the day, transparency never hurts. So I think that, by having a conversation, it gets things on the table. It allows everybody to say, well, this is how I perceive it. So I think that's a brilliant idea.
So what's the timeline on this this contract? How much longer do we have on our current contract?
The current
December
contract
10th.
expires the end of the year.
Yeah, we got to
Okay.
pass it December 10th.
Got it. All right. Well, that's not much time.
But it's important. And
Absolutely, it is.
right. And it's just a start. And, so we do have to make a decision by the end of the year, and we live with whatever decisions we make. But I think it's a continued conversation beyond that to keep honing this in a direction that is, that includes transparency, that includes fairness, and is equally represents everybody.
So what happens if there is a lapse in the contract? If we don't approve it in December because we can't come to some sort of agreement, and come January, we don't reach any agreement until March or whatever. What happens in the meantime there?
You want my personal opinion, or you want the actual?
I would like to have some sort of why not? I would like to have a legal opinion as well as a personal opinion.
Legal opinion is we just don't send $174,000 over whatever 12 months to the county. You just don't send the money. That's the reality, or that's the reality. But I think what's going to happen behind the scenes is you're going to get a lot of pushback. And I think, and this is now my personal opinion, I think we're going to lose massive amounts of goodwill that exceed $174,000 at less than 0.0913% of our budget. I think
sure, but that's my goodwill needs to come both directions. And he's losing goodwill with us.
And I agree, Paul, but I don't know how you measure all of a sudden, if that call comes in and it's in the city limits, it's a long road to get there.
Well, the other thing is that we're also paying a portion of county taxes too. So we should receive the same services. All this extra service that they say that they give us, I don't see it. So as a county resident, we should still be receiving services. And if they choose not to, then that's an opening that they crack, and they have to live with those repercussions too, whatever they may be. But I'm not willing to.
I think our citizens end up living with that, not the county. Because again, it's a drop in his bucket. It is not a significant amount to hurt him.
But it doesn't mean that we settle for something that isn't right for us.
And again, my opinion, you guys,
right.
I'm not there where you guys are on the level of this contract and the effect it will have as a ripple down to our 1,600 citizens.
So to be clear, Robert, you are concerned about retaliation from the sheriff's department.
I think that by what you guys all said that you saw on post, I think, yes, I think that's a a reality that could happen. Now, whether you could ever prove it, probably not. I mean, I think Amy will remember when I first got on this council, we sat here that first year and his contract came in and Dave left the room. And I turned to you guys and I said, he gets whatever we give him. He's got to provide the same service. And then Nick renegotiated the deal basically behind our backs. We never knew how much it was. And so we ended up with that. And so I came around to the conclusion that the dollars didn't warrant the argument anymore based on what I considered to be the black effect for not funding. That's just where I came from.
2020 has been a very different year, and we are in a very different place, most of us, on a lot of levels. And one of those levels is that what I see rising are people finally speaking, having the courage to voice their thoughts about these things. And I think that for me, at least, and the people that I've spoken to, and even the letters that we've been getting from our citizens who have taken their time to let us know how they feel, I think I'm ready to take this on.
And I mean, obviously these are very different topics, but using the 1639 discussion as an example of the amount of outrage was, I mean, we had, 30, 35 people that had crammed in. 2, 3 people were actually from Stevenson. The rest of them were from the county, which I love getting engagement from, everybody. Hearing extra voices to the conversation is great. But if we're talking about what does the city residents want, I wasn't hearing that same level during that conversation. This could be different, but that's what I have to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry, Annie. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, just to wrap that, actually, the 1639 conversation, a lot of those folks were actually from out of town, from outside of our county.
Right.
Out of state, even.
Yes. But to Robert's point, and I think it's a legitimate one, and that is part of the reason why I want to keep this money with the sheriff's office. I think it is important for us to support that extra bit of law enforcement within our city. I do think it's money well spent. My beef with it, my problem with it, is that it doesn't seem to be allocated the way we need it to be allocated within that department.
Right.
So that's really, for me, that's a big piece of it. I don't really want to take that money away from the sheriff. I want that money to be allocated towards these mental health resources. And the truth is, if that doesn't work, if we try that and in 2 years that doesn't work, whoever's on council at that point always has an opportunity to correct course. Now, maybe there's a way to change the contract to a 1-year contract instead of a 2-year contract too. We don't have to be
you got a 90-day jump clause anyway, Amy. So if you didn't like it after the first 3 months, we can, you just give notice and you jump by the second 3 months.
Yeah, but I think that's by having a 1 year, it allows, a better, it brings everybody back to the table. Then, everybody's expecting it and we can say what did or didn't work. To Scott's point, these are contracts, they have deliverables. We may have not been watching them as well as we would have liked, just kind of given the conversations we're having now. But by having it as a 1 year, I think that would be more ideal to consider, at least, of just if we're going to make any substantial shifts, did this work? Did it not? If it goes really poorly, then I think it's worth saying, okay, maybe we do want to move it back rather than being stuck in a bad situation for 2 years.
And another thing,
but we're not stuck, Matt. That's my point. You're only stuck for 90 days. At any one point in time in 24 months, you're stuck for 90 days. That's it.
But you have to find it within those first 90 days, right? So if
you can at any point.
Any 90 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this agreement may be terminated at any time or by either party for any reason, up to 90 days written notice.
No, I think that makes sense. But then it's like, oh, I'm going to renegotiate this contract now. And it's kind of poor form to me of like, good luck. Then, they're not going to want to come back to the table.
Yeah. And
which is setting the expectation, I guess, is how I saw it.
Yeah. My concern too is that it seems that these decisions that the sheriff is making in determining when and when he is not going to support the governor's decisions are reflective of issues that the city residents, majority of city residents, well, I don't know about the majority, a lot of city residents that I'm hearing from do not support. So he's making decisions based on perhaps his personal beliefs and beliefs of people who don't live in the city itself. And this money that we're sending to him are from city residents. And so we need to take into consideration whether or not he is going to choose to, as I said earlier, my first onset of this conversation was, is he going to choose to support and protect all of us, not just the people whose views he shares?
Okay, I think that obviously we're not going to come to any kind of an agreement on even even if it was just suggesting a different amount on the contract. I do like the idea of a committee.
Scott, I'd hate to interject, but let me do this, Amy. I'm going to take the 4.0 section and add a 0.5 to it with some language that talks about what you guys are discussing to see if that can be the additional deliverable that you're looking for based on this amount of money. Again, not new money or not changing inherent policies, because, and Annie, I totally agree with you. You hear from your folks of the citizen. I hear from the different group that all love and support the sheriff's department. So, I mean, again,
Right.
we have a diverse city in opinion, not necessarily in race or anything else, but it is diverse in opinion. So let me take a crack at that, since it sounds like we're punting this to the December 10th meeting, and it's almost 8 o'clock, and I know we've got other stuff on our agenda. But I think I've appreciated everything everybody has said, and I'm listening as hard as I can.
I mean, I think that's great to bring to whether to the table on the 10th or otherwise, but I think we still need to get everyone in the room.
Yeah, just in case they don't go for that the number 5 clause.
Yeah. Well, and I think I don't know if we're all still comfortable with giving the full amount regardless. And so I think we still need to have that conversation. I think that 0.5 that Robert's talking about, we do need to better clarify the deliverables and how it's measured and all that. But I think a conversation still needs to happen of how those funds are going to disperse.
And Robert, how quickly could you have the number 5?
Well, if we're doing December 10th, I'll try to get it out. I've got Zoom depositions all day tomorrow, and I get bored watching them, so I start working. So I'll bang something out and send it out. I'll send it out selectively so I don't violate any meeting rules,
Right.
Maybe get some one-on-one feedback from all of you, but individually. It will not be a blast email.
Okay.
Because I can see Ken already.
So, yeah, I'm starting to be a little nervous about how you're planning to do this. I do like Amy's idea about an ad hoc committee, preferably maybe 2 of you, so you don't have any quorum issues. And then
no, we're going to need to make it an open meeting, because I think a lot of us want to be on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to do a special meeting, that's certainly in your prerogative. But another way to do it potentially might be an ad hoc committee who could formulate this 0.5 draft. They could send that to staff, who could circulate it. Now, the tricky part is the input back to as far as how that 0.5 would be handled. That probably would need to be done at the December 10th meeting if you don't want to have a special meeting, because otherwise you're sharing mental impressions together with more than 2 of you, and if that happens, that's a de facto meeting. So, and certainly the amount would be potentially a subject of discussion for the December 10th meeting. And all 5 of you could share your thoughts, and ultimately that could be part of a motion. But I'm just trying to think out of the box, a way that Amy's idea of ad hoc committee is a way to kind of handle that, and you could involve somebody with the county. You could however you want to put that committee together, it'd be up to you guys. But I'm just trying to see a way to get this kind of in a shape to present for the December 10th meeting. So, at least you'd have a shot at, a motion at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend that Amy and Robert do an ad hoc committee, the two of them. This is just my recommendation. And they can,
Amy,
they
I
can
can't get together
provide.
for a fucking phone call. Sorry for my language on that. I know we're on Zoom. Just our schedules never work.
And I don't actually need to be on that. I would say if Annie, you feel strongly, or if Matthew, you feel strongly.
Honestly,
I'm happy to be on it, but I think there are other people who's passionate who are.
Honestly, I meant to say Annie and not Amy,
There you
so
go.
I apologize. Yeah. I meant.
I mean, as far as working out the extra little line item, that's fine. I'm less concerned about that, but I still think we need to get the county in the room, which is going to need to be.
Keep in mind, everyone.
Anyway.
Sorry to interrupt, Matthew. Keep in mind, this is an interlocal agreement with the sheriff's department. The county contracts with the sheriff's department. The city contracts with the sheriff's department. So when we're talking about who's getting money, it's the sheriff's department.
That's fair. I guess it was, we were talking of mental health wise, which would be with the county. So I guess it was just kind of getting all the pieces on the board, together. But fair point, Scott. But either way, I mean, with limited resources that we're seeing, plus foolish behaviors, I don't see the current amounts as is, and which we've all been discussing. So I don't see. I think the extra item Robert's talking about will be helpful, but it's not going to be the total fix. And because this runs out end of year, preferably we'd like to get this in before December 10th, because it's going to be hard enough to get enough people back to approve after.
So my thought is, as I'm thinking about my schedule too, this would likely have to take place during the day, and I am not available during the day. So,
possible weekend?
Yeah, but could we get the sheriff and somebody else available on a weekend? If we could do.
He wants the money.
Weeknight, I could do that. I'm short-staffed already as it is where I work, and so I'm covering a lot of shifts, and so I realize that I don't have the availability like I would hope that I would.
I think that's fair, but at the same time, if you want, he'll come to the table. He'll make the time.
Well, if he has it,
Why don't you? If Annie and Robert are willing, this could be coordinated between the two of you, maybe spearheaded by Liana.
No, I did not.
You don't want to do this.
No, he doesn't have time either.
Fine. I'll do it. That's fine. I'll do it, and I'll make the time.
Amy and Annie, right then?
Yeah, unless Matthew or Paul want in.
Does that make the A team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the little segment? No.
Yes. Okay. So if you have any opinions that you want to share that you've not shared outside of that you've not shared in this meeting, please email us. And Robert, please get us your 0.5 stuff in the next whatever week.
Yeah.
No, he can't share that with you, Liana, for it to be shared in the committee.
He can share it with Liana. There's no problem with that.
Yeah.
And I guess if it's shared with, it's Robert's mental impression shared with Annie and Amy, and you guys are discussing it, it's okay, because you're not bringing Robert into your discussions about that item. So it's treading a fairly fine line.
Could your voice go any higher?
But I, you guys constantly making me, worry about these things. But Robert shares it with Liana. Liana is free to share Robert's mental impressions with the four others of you, and then Annie and Amy can act on that. Just as long as you don't involve any other council members, you remain a 2-member ad hoc committee, and you can involve any other outside players. You can involve staff. You can involve the mayor. Just no other council members. That's all.
Okay.
And
understood?
Yes, thank you.
Makes sense. So is there a reason we're now moving away from trying to get anyone else in the room? Sheriff,
No, I
county,
think we do-
otherwise?
We
Amy
do
and
want
I
to get,
Okay, I thought
we're
this
going to
was
get
in
other
place
people in the
of.
room. No.
Okay.
This is just the folks from council. And who would you like to, who else would you like to see? I think we need a couple people from the sheriff's office
No, I think
and invite the county.
I don't know
if they
which of
want.
you had mentioned, trying to get the county in to talk about mental health, the sheriff
Yeah.
of how they want to approach it and how they see this playing out. My guess is there'll be a few scenarios we're all going to spin around
Do we
to
know
make
who
this better for the residents.
Do we know who the mental health counselor is that's available to the sheriff's department?
I
Probably
could
have to go through
contact Kirby.
Okay, I think that we have a game plan.
Thank you.
A couple things, again, don't forget that so far this is a contract with the sheriff's department. If you just decide to offer less money for the contract, then obviously expect some negotiation on what the contract is going to look like. Keep in mind that we are talking about protection from someone that we're contracting from, protection that we all agree that we need. Don't get too mired in the personality of the person in charge of that department. Don't forget there is a process in place. If the citizens of the county decide that they don't like Sheriff Brown's antics, they will let him know that at the next election. If you guys decide that lowering the amount of money that you're going to make available for that contract and would like to make it available to mental health, obviously that department needs as much help as they can get. That would be with the county and not with the sheriff. And then also if you don't see deliverables, find out if there's a way to have them proven that they were done. Because I don't want there to be, well, I didn't see this or I didn't see that. We do have to have a modicum of trust with if the sheriff says that he did have enhanced or more traffic stops that actually did happen, because we do still need to have a working relationship with all the departments.
And Scott, can you join the ad hoc committee? Are you interested?
I'm with Annie. I don't have a lot of time during the day. Like I have very, very little time during the day. But yeah, I'm happy to participate in that.
So Annie and Amy, if you send me what your availability is, I can work on scheduling it with the county and the sheriff's department.
Okay, I can get that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll just work off of Annie's. So
All right.
Leon, if you could forward that to me once you've got it. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
And not a topic for today, but just putting it out there for later of whenever this does get resolved. So to Scott's point of being able to make sure that we feel comfortable that the deliveries are being done, whether it's creating a kind of a monthly ad hoc of going over some of that information as more of a, yeah, you know what I mean? So, I mean, something to consider.
Yeah, more accountability to the council.
So
Late
more
winter.
than the report that they send on a monthly basis in the info?
Possibly, but I mean, yeah, that may be something to consider to address those concerns.
Okay.
Speaking of that monthly report, if there are copies of that going back several years, then I could just run that into an Excel spreadsheet and look for trend lines on things like traffic stops and so forth, and see if there has been any. It seems like every time we've talked to the sheriff, we've asked him for increased traffic patrols and so forth. And I have not anecdotally seen that happen. But if we could just crunch the numbers with that report, look for trend lines, we might be able to confirm one way or the other. And I'd be willing to do that.
I can send them to you.
That'd be wonderful. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Shorelines grant contract with DOE, Liana. Oh, and actually, this is Ben.
Yeah, so DOE requires us to update our shorelands management program. You all have adopted a version of that for DOE's review. That version is a comprehensive update, which was required by DOE, and a periodic review, which is also required. So a number of years ago, we got funding for the comprehensive update portion. This is an offer for funding for the periodic review portion. The work on this has already largely been done. There will be some administrative work to come when DOE gets us their comments on what we submitted to them in December of 2019, but we still 2018, but we still await that. So it's a mandate, but in this case, it's a funded mandate, and they're offering us $11,200.
I guess that I would entertain a motion to take their money.
So moved. Motion to
Second.
approve. Yep. Do I need to state that whole thing?
May as well for the record,
Motion
as opposed to
approve-
taking their money.
Motion to approve the Shoreline Master Program Agreement with the Washington Department of Ecology in the amount of $11,200.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any other discussion about taking their money? All right, roll call for the vote. Matthew.
Aye.
Annie.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
And Amy.
Aye.
Thank you. Tourism awards. Liana.
So the Tourism Funding Committee met and we reviewed the revenues and the expenses compared to what the applications came in at, and the slate of applications is before you as their final recommendation.
I have to say, I'm going to geek out for a moment. I'm excited about the Pirate Festival. I tried to get a Ren Fair out here and it didn't work out. So second best thing.
And again, all of these are, of course, COVID dependent. So they'll.
No, you put it on here. It has to happen now.
Mhm.
So Matthew, you've heard the joke, right? The pirate's favorite letter. It be the C.
It's not R.
It's R.
Right. That's what I thought it was going to be. Is R.
It's a twist. It's a turn.
It was. Good job.
All right. Joking aside, bad jokes as they may be, I would entertain a motion to approve.
All right. Okay, motion to approve the 2021 Tourism Funding Awards as presented for a total amount of $351,100.
Second.
All right. We have a first and a second. Any other discussions? No more bad jokes. All right. Roll call for the vote, please. Matthew.
Aye.
Well done. Annie.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
And Amy.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you all.
Scott, why are you going to the next thing? Because I told Andy and everybody, I said, the numbers I looked at, I didn't drill all the way down. I was able to do that while you were discussing stuff I didn't pay attention to. I apologize. The county has a $3 million budget for mental health issues. So how those budget numbers are there, but it's $2,994,866. So they've got mental health salaries and wages of $731,000. So the number is not that 90,000 I was looking at. There is,
And that's better.
Better.
But why do we only have 4 days coverage at
Right.
that amount?
That
Going to-
yeah, that doesn't make sense because the sheriff told the council that he had to call someone in from Vancouver
Mhm.
every time they had an issue.
So even more
Yes.
important that we. No. I think that's fair.
Yes.
So I think this is good. Just even more important that we get them in the room so we can talk, just to better understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Liana.
Okay, so at the council meeting, I don't know if it was the last council meeting or the council meeting before that, where council approved the changing of the standards to allow sub-meters. When we were setting up that vendor, we were looking at another vendor that also had a more or less a deduct meter for water, and it was the sheriff's office. So basically what it is the water meter that goes to the jail. There's a line that then goes out and is to water the courthouse lawn. And so when we did the BOD surcharges, they requested that we take off the irrigation water because it's water that doesn't go down the drain. And so we installed a deduct meter. And in our previous software, it was set up correctly. In the conversion, there was something that happened where it didn't record correctly. And so basically they weren't billed for the water or sewer usage related to watering the courthouse lawn. And so the water usage that they should have been billed amounts to just over $6,000. And so that was corrected this last billing cycle. And so going forward, it will be billed correctly.
So out of that $3 million budget that Robert said, they don't want to pay the $6. Okay.
I haven't even mentioned it to them about the $6,000. This is kind of similar to how we've been doing things recently with the meter conversion and everything. As far as it was an issue on the city's part, it had nothing to do with them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if I support that, because if I don't get, a payment book for my vehicle payment, I'm still obligated to pay those payments. I know that it's an obligation of mine. So why are we giving the county, or anyone for that matter, a pass for something that they should be paying for?
So it's similar to what happened with the woman at the last meeting. What she was billed showed up on her utility bill and she paid that. The error on our side was that what we billed wasn't enough. It wasn't the correct amount.
Right.
And so it's nothing that they knew that the amount wasn't correct, because they had the usage on there and they were paying for that usage based on the bill that we sent them.
I thought they weren't being billed at all, is the way I was taking it. Okay.
No, what ended up happening is that deduct meter subtracted that water usage from the entire billing. And so they were still being billed for water and they were still being billed for sewer, but they just weren't being billed for the water related to the courthouse lawn on that same bill as they had in the past, if that makes sense. So now they'll have two bills. One bill that is the base, so they still got the base fee, they still paid the base fees, and they still paid the usage related to the jail. And then they'll get a separate billing now for the courthouse lawn water usage.
I mean, I'm not happy about it, but as it was on our end, on our end, it makes sense. Grumble, grumble.
Motion to
I think
waive
it's-
the back billing of water usage for the Skamania County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $6,057.52.
Second.
All right, that is a first and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call for the vote, please. Matthew.
Aye.
Annie.
Nay.
Sorry again.
Nay.
Paul.
Aye.
Robert.
Aye.
And Amy.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Liana, change to the type of minutes.
So over the past few meetings, and I might have brought this up before as well, as about the type of minutes that we take. There have been discussions about changes to the minutes, which takes time on multiple standpoints. When it takes time from council, but it also takes staff time. It also takes a lot of staff time to write the detailed minutes that we've been doing. And my experience with the city of Stevenson is there is a lot of detail that goes into everything, and that flowed over into the minutes. And so that has been just, in essence, the way we've always done it. With the change with how we're recording the meetings are live on YouTube. We can actually link and timestamp where the conversation took place into the meeting minutes. That allows for increased transparency, and then also for people to view the discussion firsthand rather than hearing it or reading it through a third medium. So included in the packet, I've included recommendations from Jurassic Parliament, and I believe they wrote the MRSC article on what meeting minutes are best for governing bodies, public governing bodies, and their recommendation is action minutes. The next step from that is the summary minutes, and then they highly do not recommend the detailed minutes, which is what we currently do. And so go ahead.
No, please. I thought you were finished.
I was going to say, because they're council minutes, it's council's decision.
Good.
That's it.
Okay. So, I mean, I have two concerns. One being I love the idea of being able to link to the YouTube and, actually and all that. But for somebody who may be hearing impaired, we don't have subtitles on the YouTube channel. So
you have closed captioning availability on YouTube.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, that is helpful. Personally, though, I do like having the detailed minutes because it's just easier to review that than trying to go through 3 hours of it. But then additionally, I mean, this is we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are just trying to hold on to their jobs, and now we're talking of reducing labor for minute taking during this, and that's concerning to me. I understand the added labor to staff, but at the same time, that feels inappropriate and shameful.
Well, another way to look at it is as a way of reducing cost to the city, which is actually a benefit to all of our local citizens. I think it's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that the person who was doing the detailed minutes isn't going to be employed. They're going to be employed doing something more useful. And as I understand, we're going to, even post-COVID, we're going to continue with a YouTube version of our council meetings, correct?
Yes, we have the technology to have everything set up to more or less do Zoom and YouTube.
Yeah, I think that if we can use the minute recorder doing something more fruitful, I'm all for it.
That's her only role here, right?
She takes minutes for the planning commission, right, as well as for the city council.
Right. So there'd be nothing to say, oh, let's fill your time elsewhere. Okay. So we're no longer job creation. We're anti-employment.
These are not her only jobs either.
That's fair, but I don't know.
Johanna, if you would like to talk, you can go ahead and hit *9. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Okay, you're unmuted, Johanna.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys? So, yes, I do have other jobs, and I actually have just picked up another position that is taking a fair amount of time. And this does take a lot of time. So if it could be reduced substantially, I wouldn't be too upset. And I could still, still doing the planning commission. I'm not sure what Ben feels about this, if he wants the same kind of summary minutes or just action minutes. That works also as well. I know there's customs and traditions, and I think, changes are pretty positive.
Joanna, I'm trying to help you here.
I know, Matt.
Well, the mayor's trying to get rid of your job. Come on.
I don't think so. I mean, I think there's still, some things will have to be recorded, and not everything is just going to be as part of YouTube. There will still be, I believe, a written record, but I'm not sure about that, Liana. Is that how it would work?
Yes, so there's still
Yeah.
a written record, and I've been trying to keep track of doing the minutes. So I still need Johanna to do the minutes because there's no way that I can run the meeting and do the minutes as well. And so she'll still attend the council meetings. It will just take her hopefully substantially less time to compile the minutes portion of it.
Right. It's just a lot more processing of them because it does. It takes quite a bit of time to look through all the conversations, try to analyze what people said, put it in a readable form, and present it as more or less a story of what took place at the meeting. I mean, that's how I always looked at minutes.
And you're doing a fantastic
Matthew.
job.
And with Ben's stuff, a lot of it's more legalese. There's a lot of things that have to be explained in really significant detail.
Yeah, I think you're doing wonderful at that. We can run the same question past the planning commission to see whether they want the action minutes or detailed minutes.
Okay.
And Ben,
So
question for you, Ben. Does the planning have their own YouTube channel? Or are these not hosted? I mean, I know you guys do a live one, but I don't know if it's retained.
Yeah, we don't do the posting to YouTube. Some of that is on what I feel like is my ability to control for a meeting. So since I'm usually the only staff support there, I don't think I can do the YouTube and get the meeting recorded and get everything going. So we do the live Zoom webinar, and then those are available for review at request.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at that link that Liana included in the packet of a city that has adopted this style of note taking. Now, it does seem to be a little bit more verbose than the Jurassic Parliament suggested it could be, but it does make for a cleaner set of minutes if it's, something worth looking at.
This is Johanna. The only thing that I like to see, especially in minutes, is when the public comes before you. I think it's important that you validate that they've taken the time to look into the issue, taken the time to come to the meeting and present their positions and opinions. And I think that should be noted somehow. I've always found that when I see something that just says public comment was received, to me, that's really empty, and it just doesn't really tell the story of your community and what their concerns are. And I've been on the school board, and I've done lots of minutes, and I just feel that the public should be rewarded, recognized, and respected.
And that is part of, agreed. And that is part of our process as well, to speak clearly as to who you are and where you're from so that we can document that. So that, that's a good point.
So because these are council minutes, if any changes are to be made, it would either be by motion or I can make a change to the council policy and present it at the next meeting. And absent a motion or any direction, nothing changes.
I'll make a motion to move to the action type minutes that have been presented in the council packet, and to include the YouTube stamp and Johanna's comments about recognizing public. Yeah, thank you.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Nay.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you all. Okay, Liana, salary schedule.
So in inclusion with your, so previously the ordinance for approving the budget included the salary schedule. Salaries are typically just adopted by resolution. I think that's how it was done last year. And so this is the salary schedule, which is included in the 2021 budget as discussed, I think going back to maybe August or September. And it's just a 0.8% increase based on the CPI for the West Coast, I think BC section. So that's what's before you.
Motion to approve resolution 2023-70 adopting the 2021 salary schedule.
Second.
All right. Oh, who got that? Was that you, Annie, on the second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, roll call for the vote, please. Matthew?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, 8J, Scrivener's error.
Yes. So when we adopted back in February the Pool Metro District resolution for the third time, there was an RCW reference that referenced section 4 of the code, which section 4 of the code was talking about appointing the officers for of the district so the county would appoint officers and the city would appoint officers to form the park district commissioners. But the language stated elections. The memo and all of the discussions that we had were talking about the elections of the officers. So it was just that that number was a 4 instead of a 2. And so in order to clarify things, we changed it to being a 2 now, and we made it really clear. So that's the reason for the resolution. And the goal is there's a December deadline to get it on the February ballot. And so it's on our agenda tonight, and then it'll be on the county's agenda next week.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-73, authorizing a ballot proposition for the creation of a Metropolitan Park District that corrects the Scrivener's error.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're coming around the final bend. All right. Informational items. Is there anything that you needed to go over on your financial report, Liana, or is it for dissemination later?
It's for, let's see. One thing that I've been meaning to bring up is previously in the vouchers, it says voucher approval and investment updates. Included in the financial report, and I'll bring it up. It's in the treasurer's report, and it's on page 302 of the entire packet. Thank you for not making me print these off. I really like being remote. We're saving a lot of paper, just a heads up. So on that page, it shows the purchases and total investments and liquidated. And what this shows your investment activity. And so in October, we had a bond that was sold, and then we purchased another bond. We've been having bonds sell because the markets, the rates are dropping. And so when they're up to be called, they are typically called. And so instead of talking about the investment updates separately within that voucher approval report, it's within the treasurer's report that we now have through our financial system. So it doesn't need to be reported separately. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And then the second page down on page 303, that shows the total cash position of each fund. And it shows how much is in investments and how much is in available cash. Within this, you'll see there are some negatives mostly for projects that are outstanding. So we have the Russell Avenue project is a negative because we have receivables outstanding for the grant funds that we have. Same with First Street and same with the wastewater system upgrades, because those are their loan funds as well that we're just waiting reimbursement for. So that if you see a negative in like the general expense fund for cash, then we have a problem. But for the most part, we're good and we have healthy cash balances as well as reserves in those. So that was all I have.
Perfect, thank you. All right, staff report. Carl.
Hello. Yeah, so you'll see there, Robert, you mentioned catch basin cleaning. That's what we're doing this this upcoming month. We went through water system. We call it a sanitary survey. It's basically an audit of our water system with the Department of Health, and went well. 5 hours worth of interrogation of how we produce water and handle water and get it to houses safely. So myself and Gordy attended that. Basically, it's a state representative from the state comes down and tours all of your facilities. That was done at the end of October. I was not able to obviously include that in last month's report, so I included it on this one. Rock Creek Storm Drain is on there. And also we'll be getting ready for snowfall and snow events. We're also putting out on our website, I think we're going to do mailers, Liana, is that correct? About just kind of a heads up to our citizens of how we prioritize roads to plow. And that is my staff update.
Are the rigs all ready for the winter? You guys all good?
Good to go.
All right.
Thank you, Carl. Ben?
Yeah, mainly want to give you guys an update on upcoming activities that'll hit your agendas. So in December, we're going to schedule a public hearing to review the first deliverable for the building residential capacity grant. This would be the zoning text amendments in the R3 district. Between now and then, we'll do a SEPA analysis of that and have the public hearing for you guys at that time. We will be going out to the community with the potential map change to expand the R3 multifamily district boundaries shortly. I don't know that I'll be able to get it out tomorrow, but I do have an internal goal of that. And working on some of the downtown parking reductions related to residential uses and spurring development generally in downtown. So those two components are in process, but you'll see the zoning text amendment for the R3 multifamily district next time. The January meeting, we intend to have representatives from Malfoster and Longy attend the council meeting to present the alignment plans for Columbia Street. So that is moving forward, and we'll engage the community to invite them to the council meeting to participate in any discussion that might result from that too. I was hoping to have some preliminary information on the First Street paving project. So remember, we got the sidewalk and overlook project. We submitted for another grant to pave the roadway. I was hoping to have that information today, but the board meeting was reduced to just tomorrow, where it was scheduled to be today and tomorrow. So no information on that yet. But fingers are still very much crossed on that. And then following up with previous meetings for the stormwater quality concern along Rock Creek Drive. We're in contact with one of the ecology certified labs to perform testing for water quality parameters. We've got a preliminary list of those parameters from 2 different divisions of ecology, and awaiting information from that lab to make sure that they can test for all those and give me some instructions about how to collect those samples so that they're not tainted in some way. So still moving forward on that.
Is that it? Fine report. Thank you very much, Liana.
Okay, so in addition to the items that I have in my report, I wanted to mention that I've talked with Scott as well about the conversation of the last meeting about banning fireworks, and just continuing that discussion. And based on just the holidays, and this meeting was stacked anyway. So we're talking about holding a public hearing in January. And the question that I have is, are there other modes of engagement with the public that you want? Is a public hearing enough? I'm not going to prepare any ordinance. I think I will just leave it as a discussion. But is there anything else that you're expecting with regards to hearing from the public on that?
Liana?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matthew.
Please.
I was just going to say it would be really nice because many people don't have time to attend a public hearing. I think the public hearing concept is fantastic, but I've been noticing that we've been doing a lot of surveys as well. If we could add a survey as a way to collect public input on that,
Okay.
and make sure obviously that that's advertised, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I can do that.
I just want to ensure that in one way or another that we are able to have a 2-touch around this. So whether it's a discussion the first time or whatnot, but yeah, start in January. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, what we're talking about is not the ban of the sale of any fireworks, but not allowing personal fireworks to be set off on the 4th of July within the city limits, and putting some extra money towards a public fireworks display. Is that what people are?
That was where the conversation left off.
Yeah.
To my recollection.
Okay, thanks.
And also that any changes wouldn't be impacted until 2022. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Let's see. The WAGAP mentioned that they will have they received a grant from the Community Foundation of Southwest Washington. And so they'll have a full-time employee that they're working on hiring right now to run the warming shelter. And so they're able to put that shelter up to get it up and running as well because of the COVID funds. So that's great news that I think has been a multi-year project to finally get up and running, and that they're able to find someone to manage it full-time is great. We're going to be a beta user, a beta tester for some new releases that our software system, our financial software system has. One of them that I'm really excited about is they're going to be doing some of that financial modeling and reporting that we're looking at earlier in the year. They're including it in the web version of the software, and so we'll be one of the beta testers for that. So I'll be excited to see how that works out, and that's at no extra cost to us. I'm sure it's
so no extra cost for the testing. Does that mean we get to keep that module at no extra cost too?
There's no extra cost for the module either. So
sweet.
they partnered with Tableau. So this year, I think they started implementing it with their Springbrook users in the fall, and then Springbrook Express, which is what Bias is being transitioned to. It's the rebranding of it, will be available to everyone in the summer of next year. And so I have a meeting tomorrow to figure out what the other features are that we'll be testing. So that's pretty exciting news. I also saw in an email today that the PUD received a $50,000 grant to do a broadband study, and that's a curb grant, right? So that's exciting news. So we've been working on trying to get, a larger than just Stevenson wide broadband plan. So it'll be looking forward to see the results of that feasibility study. Three Squares program, they rent out the space below, and what they do is they provide additional meals to students that to get through the weekend, basically. And so their mode of distribution has changed. Typically, they provided the food to the schools, and then the schools would pass it out to the children. What they're doing now is they're having people come by on the first and third Thursdays. They're doing drive-by and pickup from 3 to 6. So if you see increased traffic down here, that's the reason for that. But the program is still going, so that's good news. And I also want to give a shout out to Anders, has been working really hard on doing just working with Wave Broadband to make sure that we can get information from them to get rid of a deposit that we have from Summit, which is our original cable franchise. And it's only, you know, it's almost $4,000 or $3,000, but we want to get it off our books because we don't need it anymore. The deposit just needs to go away, but he's been doing a great job, and we finally got all the paperwork so we can get rid of it this year. So it's one of those little things that just makes you happy. So, also, to Amy's point earlier in the meeting, as far as the reason why we've been able to get all of these costs down for the wastewater project, it has been, yes, the staff has just been amazing. A lot of hard work from everyone. Ben, Carl, the staff, Public Works, trying to keep those costs down when we finally did. And then the heavy lift of learning how to operate the plant by ourselves. And then the EDC as well, with helping us get grants, and the significant industrial users and the business community as well, helping us write those letters of support and keeping their BOD down. So it's been a really great effort by everyone involved. So thanks.
Leona, I did forget to mention that we have a meeting tomorrow with Department of Ecology to discuss high strength users. So
yes.
Should have put that in my staff report, but that's a quarterly meeting we've been having, just discussing progress with our BOD loadings.
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
Motion to approve the vouchers as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call for the vote. Matthew?
Aye.
Annie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
And Amy?
Aye.
Thank you. I guess the only report that I have is I was invited to attend, it's what's the acronym? The Washington Tourism Alliance, WTA, is that what it is? So it's not officially a state office, it's like a consortium of sorts. Anyway, they are starting to work on state branding, and then are having meetings with all the different regions. So there was a Gorge-centric meeting, Zoom meeting last week, and it was the usual type of meeting where, how would you describe your people? And how would you think people would describe your attractions? And how would you? And I couldn't get past the fact that we were talking about tourism in the middle of a lockdown. Couldn't get past it. So I was thanked for my candor and my frankness, but this idea of enticing people to come to a state that travel is, I think that I said the first thing that you guys probably ought to consider is a campaign internally to the state, because right now it's a mentality of outsiders and not guests. So and they said, well, bear in mind that this is, we've got to start somewhere and get the process going. But that was an interesting meeting to attend. I was, I wouldn't say shocked, but I could not get past just the irony of the whole thing. So, but not to take away from the good work that they're doing, and the fact that they're making it happen is something to be said for that. So we'll see what comes out of all of those meetings. Do any of you have any updates for the greater good?
I have a question about the WTA, Scott. I used to be familiar with it and have lost track in the last, year or so. Is participation, or maybe I should say sponsorship or membership even, doesn't that come with a price tag? I mean, for us to engage with WTA, isn't there a price tag that they would charge for a certain level of marketing or something?
Honestly, Annie, I don't know that. The fact that there was somebody on a kind of like a state level, or not a state level, the scope of a statewide. I mean, I guess that's what I'm struggling with. It was invited to come in and just talk about it, this branding. But as far as I honestly, I haven't been involved in the tourism aspect since I left the chamber board. So
Right.
I really have the machinations of the whole thing. I don't know. I was glad that I was invited. But other than that, I honestly don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick update on the EDC. I am requesting, it'll be on next month's agenda, I believe, or actually probably on our annual board retreat. I'm requesting that the EDC consider additional grants to downtown businesses, specifically for heaters and roofs, awnings of some kind for outdoor dining this winter. So if anybody has anything they want to chime in on that is related to that topic, please let me know. Our annual retreat is, I think it might be December 10th. No, anyway, early December. Thanks.
That Kevin brought that up at one of the last SDA meeting I was at. And so we had Tabitha was there, Chris Kellogg from Clark and Louis was there. I don't think we had another restaurant, but he said, okay, what do you think? Heaters or shelter? And they said, yes, we need both of them. So it'd be interesting to see how that discussion goes. But Kevin was pretty excited and did mention that there was going to be further discussion at the EDC board next month.
One thing I'm hearing, Amy, from people is the quality of the shelters that are put up. There's concern that it's just a pop-up tent, and that's not the image we want to project this year going into potentially another tough year next year. And we don't have much on the zoning books that prevents that, but if it's tied to the money to purchase it, that's a whole lot more enforceable.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Ben. Yep. Okay, I hear you.
And then the SDA grant for the Bricks and Clicks campaign was either money for improving your website or improving your facade. It was very clear that it could not be internal, but it had to be not only external, but contribute to the aesthetics of the downtown. So there's definitely some traction on we're taking this seriously, and we encourage you to take it just as seriously as we do. Anyone else? Okay, would anybody like to see, besides the items that we've already discussed this evening, anything else to be added for the agenda next month?
I just have to say, given as big as this packet was, we made it on time, and that's impressive.
And at this point, it's looking like before 9, and that's a bit okay.
I mean, I can tell a story if you want.
You're gonna filibuster till 9?
I want
you guys in?
another bad joke. Please tell me another bad joke.
How come how come clams don't give to charity? Because they're shellfish.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Good dad jokes.
My God.
Thank you all very much for putting up with bad dad jokes. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to be cracking a beer here in about 30 seconds. So thank you guys very much. And enjoy.